Welcome back to You're Invited, the podcast from Inviting Arkansas. And I'm Kim. Each month, we continue the conversations that begin in the pages of Inviting Arkansas magazine by introducing you to people, organizations, and the missions that strengthen our community across the state. At Inviting Arkansas, we believe in the power of connection. We believe that philanthropy should be accessible, community should be celebrated, and everyone should feel invited to make a difference. And that's why we're here again today. We are discussing an organization that has spent nearly 5 decades helping Arkansans find safety, strength, and hope in times of peril. Women and Children First has long been a lifeline for families impacted by domestic violence, providing crisis intervention, emergency shelter, legal advocacy, counseling, support services, and more. And this summer marks a historic milestone for the organization.
Absolutely.
They have officially opened and will welcome their first clients to Arkansas's very first Family Peace Center. It's a transformational resource designed to bring critical services together under one roof so survivors can focus on healing instead of navigating a very fragmented system. Today, we're joined by 2 people who have helped make this vision a reality. Kathy Browne serves as Campaign of Courage Chair and has devoted more than a decade to the services of Women and Children First. Daniel Robinson has supported the organization through years of civic engagement, family leadership alongside his wife Tiffany, and generations of advocates who have helped expand the organization's reach throughout the state. Kathy and Daniel, we're glad you're here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kim.
I can't think of a better time to have this conversation than this summer with the ribbon cutting, the opening, and the services offered at the Forest of Hope Family Peace Center. First and foremost, Kathy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Women and Children First?
Well, Women and Children First is the largest domestic violence shelter in the state. We have just completed a new facility. We're going from 54 beds to 132 beds. And with it is all the agencies under the same roof that a woman has to go to now. That's 22 to put her life back together. And we are, like I said, we're about 45 years old. We're leaving this very, very old building. This new facility will absolutely transform how domestic violence and sexual assault is handled in Arkansas. It's a proven model. There's about 150 in the U.S. and I think over 100 overseas. It's not our idea, but it was started in San Diego in 2002 by a fellow named Casey Gwynn, who was the DA. And they came up with this idea, Casey did, because their domestic homicide rate was going through the roof. And they said, we got to fix this. So since 2002, there's been over 150 built in the U.S. None have failed.
And none in Arkansas until
and none
today.
in Arkansas. No, this is the first in Arkansas. And none have failed. So that kind of tells you what the need is all over the country. And of course, the need is great in Arkansas. So our organization, Women and Children First, the Center Against Domestic Violence, decided in 2011 that we had to get out of our old house and do something about it. And so this project's been 11 years in the making, and we cut the ribbon last Thursday, and we're going to open to everybody on the end of June. But it's going to change everything for so many people. We're going to save so many lives and so many kids.
Kathy, your connection with Women and Children First began with what sounds like a very personal moment. Can you share a little of that with us today?
I'd love to. I love to tell this story. So I was at a party, and Cindy Murphy walked up to me and asked me if I would provide tables and chairs for the remodel that Nabholz was doing in the basement of this facility, this nonprofit that she worked with. And of course, she asked me that because sometimes they called me Mrs. Hank. I was married to Hank Browne. And
Of Hank's Fine Furniture.
thank you, Kim. And so, she said, do I need to talk to someone else? And I said, I think you're about as far up as you need to be. So we were going to go, and then she couldn't go. So I drove in this house, this very old house, and there was a gate open down to the basement. So I didn't see anyone around, so I just went down there. And I had tape measures and things with me so I could measure the space. And I'm down there and on my hands and knees and measuring the space. And the cutest little boy comes down the interior stairs, probably 6 or 7 years old. And he saw the tape measures and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm measuring the space for new tables and chairs." And he said, "Yeah, these are pretty bad." And I said, "Well, honey, you eat here, you play crafts on here. I got plenty of tables and chairs. We're all good." And he started looking at the tape measures, and I just said, "Do you want to help me?"
He was ready to be a helper.
Oh my gosh, he was intrigued. This was unusual. So he said, "Yeah." So I gave him a tape measure, and I said, "That's the last wall that I have to measure. So just go over to the wall and just shout out the numbers to me, and I'll write them down in my book."
And let's back up. How old do you remember this young man being?
Oh, 6 or 7, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, just big-eyed. Oh, great.
And proud to be a part of a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was ready. He's ready to sign up. So he's going across measuring, and I'm hearing 5, 22, ooh, 45, and all these numbers I'm writing down in my book. And so he comes to the end of the corner and the end of the wall, and he says, "Well, now what?" And I said, "Well, honey, that was the last wall I needed to measure." I said, "Yeah, come on back here." And so he walks back. Well, at that time, I was on the floor measuring something, so I just sat back on my legs, so we were eye level. And I said, "I cannot thank you enough. This was just great." And I said, "You know what? What can I do for you?" And he looked at me with those big brown eyes. This happens every time. And he says to me, "Will you hold me?" And I mean, I was so surprised. And I said, "Yeah." And I grabbed that kid up, not knowing where I was, what I was doing, carried the little boy up the stairs. Of course, that was way back when I could carry a little boy up the stairs. And went upstairs, and there was Advocate, and his mom was there. And he was telling me as we were going up the stairs that he'd been there, he and his mom had been there for a few days, and they've just slept and ate, and nobody's yelling. So I was getting a good idea of what this was.
What they had come from.
Yes. So I talked to the Advocate upstairs and introduced myself and said I didn't mean to just come in unannounced, but I just had an
Kathy
amazing...
likes to take charge of projects.
You think?
Just a little.
Yeah, you think? And I said, "What is this place?" And she said, "Well, it's the largest domestic violence shelter in the state." And I'm like, "Okay." And then the little boy's mom came over and took him from me, and she said, "Where has he been?" And I said, "Oh, he's been downstairs helping me take some measurements for new tables and chairs." And I'm looking around this old house.
Yes.
And it needs a lot of work. Even back then, it needed a lot of work. And I asked the lady.
And this is the former Women and Children First shelter, which
is now 119 years old.
Yes. And it's located roughly in what part of town? I know we don't.
It's just South Main.
Yes. I know
South Main.
that
And so I looked
anonymity
around,
is
knowing
key.
that we have electricians and plumbers on speed dial for our stores. And I said, "Do you have a facilities committee?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, you do now. I'm the chair. And by the way, my name's Kathy Browne."
And the rest is history.
Oh my gosh.
I do appreciate that a hug changed the direction of your life in a very significant way, not only for you, but for so many fellow Arkansans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Women and Children First provides that kind of love in a way that many of our friends and readers might not quite understand the depth of those services. And I wonder if maybe, Daniel, you could speak to a little bit about how the services have come together at the Family Peace Center. And, you know, it's beyond what is so critically important in terms of paperwork and legal advocacy.
Yeah, and
the love and the hugs that get
Yes.
shared in so many different
and when we
ways.
talk about it and read about it, it just, unless you go see it, it's hard to truly understand. You know, it's easy to conceptualize. Well, why doesn't the victim just leave and go to the shelter? Well, I mean, what would it take for you to leave everything you know behind and go to a new place where you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, where you don't know where your kid's going to go to school, where you don't know, you know, how you're going to live or survive or do anything, you know? And oftentimes, you know, we have clients show up that don't have any medical records or official documents, birth certificates, social security cards, and, you know, they were just trying to get out. And, you know, those are the pieces that no matter how much you write or say are truly hard to understand. And
and it's a puzzle for these folks, and the unknown is oftentimes more daunting than these dire, life-threatening situations.
100%. I mean,
they're
it's human
in.
nature.
Right.
And if we collectively can help offer to put the pieces of the puzzle to building a new life for them together, the bravery and the courage that it takes hopefully feels a little more accessible to these families.
I mean, I'll give you a quick example, but to get a restraining order, you know, it's my understanding you go to roughly 6 different spots in the courthouse. Well, that's 6 different spots that it may be easier to just leave and not continue the journey. We've been approved to issue temporary restraining orders at the new facility. So that's one whole hurdle, or 6 hurdles if you look at it that way, out of the way. But that's one little piece. You know, we still don't have food. We still don't have shelter. We still don't have our kid in school. We may not even have birth certificates to put them in school. You know, that's just the one little piece. And each one of these hurdles is a spot that they may turn around and not
breaking
continue
point.
down their path. You know, just another thing, we had 88 partner agencies involved in designing and working to what this Peace Center needs to be.
Which is a significant piece of the community that we're building
huge.
for not only the clients that we're all planning to serve at the center, but for Central Arkansas and for the state to help build a brighter, more equitable future for everyone. Because everybody, just like your friend all those years ago, you know, just wants a chance to be a part of moving the world forward.
When we talk to these agencies about the whole concept, I'd come home and I'd be talking about it, and this agency said, sure, I may take 2 offices. And Hank looked at me and said, well, Kathy, no one has said this is a bad idea. This is extraordinary. And being the first in Arkansas, I mean,
It's an act of bravery on the part of Women and Children First. It was no easy feat to bring all of this together, and the folks over at Women and Children First, from the amazing team that works in the center to the volunteers to the patrons to the community partners, have all made this possible. And certainly we're helping create a family for victims of domestic violence and their children who have not felt that kind of connection. and we're helping build relationships in situations where they may not feel safe in relationships. Family plays such a large role in the work that we do. And Daniel, you have a family legacy connected with the organization, and it speaks to how many volunteers have now become involved. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I got involved, I mean, a long time ago. I don't even remember, 15 years ago or so. And it was a small little organization, and Kathy mentioned Cindy getting her involved, but Cindy Murphy's my mother-in-law. And at that time, the board, there were a bunch of passionate board members doing everything they could. But when Cindy got involved, there weren't many finance people on the board at that time. And she was like, I need some finance people, and I can make Daniel do it. And so I got signed up to be a finance person on the board. Had no real connection or reason or history, but you absolutely aren't going to tell your mother-in-law no, especially when it's Cindy Murphy. So I happily signed up, and at this point I've been chairman of the board 2 different times, and it's obviously a great organization doing great work.
And your wife is very involved.
Yes, she's has been a board member and is currently a board member as well. She was the most recent recipient of Woman of the Year, and
you can go back and look in the archives of Inviting Arkansas.
That's correct. And
it's a beautiful pictures.
And just for perspective,
story.
I mean, we raised just shy of $700,000 at the most recent Woman of the Year. And when I got involved with the shelter, our entire budget was about $400,000. So we are doing immensely more work and helping out in so many ways that are so much better, and we've talked about it, but I mean, it's a community problem. It affects everybody, whether you have a direct connection or not. Now, I'll give you a quick number, but there's estimates that...
He's a numbers guy.
Yeah, I'm a numbers guy.
Here we go.
But there's estimates that put a murder cost, at around... $2 million, $2.5 million in there, depending on who you believe or what it is. But if we just use either one of those, I think the number last year was 44 murders.
42 domestic homicides.
42 that were directly linked in Arkansas, that were directly linked to domestic violence. That doesn't count all the other incidents or anything. But if you use 42 and you use 2 million, I mean, that's a chunk of money. So, whether you're a victim or not, your community resources are being eaten up by domestic violence. Absolutely. So you need to care about it. The Family Peace Center idea originated in San Diego, and it wasn't a nonprofit that thought of it. It was the district attorney in San Diego recognized the problem, recognized the broken system that was not helping. And the DA is actually, his name was Casey Gwynn, and he started the very first Family Peace Center in existence, and it revolutionized how care was given, how services were given, and these centers across the country and globe are all set up differently. Some of them are city-owned, some of them are, like the San Diego one, some of them are nonprofits like ours, but everywhere there's a common thread, and it's a community problem, and the community needs to come up with a community solution. And this is our version of that solution.
And remind us, there are centers globally, let's say. What are there other peer cities that match our size and kind of, I mean, there's not an easy comparison, but
well, the closest one is probably Palomar in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
We've been to that. We've been to the one in Nashville, which is amazing. And Angela, our CEO, I think she's been to about 25 or 30.
Sure.
I've gone to several with her, but just first thing we hear when we walk in is we didn't build it big enough. So,
well, we're in the business of problem solving, so we're gonna make it big enough. We're gonna solve. We're gonna move the marker on a shelter that we hope to someday shut down.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Shouldn't say shut down. We'll just transform it into another project.
Exactly.
Community
Taking
project.
away the obstacles for these women in trouble.
But to specifically answer your question, you know, depending on how it's set up or who created it is how